I am joined once again after a long, long hiatus by one of my favorite CEOs, and he's going to be talking about what was said and what happened at the Bitcoin.com conference in Nashville, which he attended.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
The Keystone wallet is the wallet that you want to be using to keep your crypto safe. Whether you are a Bitcoin maxi or an altcoin lover, it is perfect for you. Easy to use, 3 secure elements, and integrates easily with MetaMask, Kepler, and dozens of other extension wallets. Get one now to keep your crypto safe and secure.
Yes.
Hi, Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. Now, before I introduce my guest, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT, join my official Telegram announcements channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please stop that and come over and support my work on bit.ly Crypto Rich Odyssey, bit.ly/Crypto Rich 3Speak, or bit.ly/Crypto Rich Rumble. And at last, Dan Weinberger, good to have you back.
Crypto Rich, it has been way too long. So excited to be back on the program. Thank you for having me again, especially to talk about Bitcoin 2024. Man, what a conference that was.
Yes. Now we're recording 2 videos. One is about the Bitcoin 2024, but also we're going to record a follow-up video about morpheus.network. Absolutely fabulous project that you've been heading up, that you co-founded, which I do recommend people look into. But you were at the Bitcoin.com conference in Nashville, where RFK spoke and Trump spoke and Kamala Harris didn't.
She didn't.
Apparently she declined. I heard the Democrats declined. Anyway,
listen. To be honest, I feel that Trump must have put in a lot of preparation for the speech. I'm sure that he hasn't dealt with crypto and Bitcoin for his entire life.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are people backstage saying, "Don't forget to comment on decentralization and so on and so forth." But for what it was worth, for the amount of knowledge I'm sure he has, he really did a great job. So we can talk about that.
So tell us then, how was it? What happened? What are your takeaways?
Really an impressive conference. Being an election year in the United States as well, it had a huge influence of politics. There were representatives from the Democrats, representatives from Republicans, independents. They even had pundits from both sides as well, sort of talking it out. People from Daily Wire represented. That's more on the right, of course. There were a few different reporters just talking about the politics of Bitcoin and what's going to happen next. And being as it's Bitcoin 2024, being as it's Nashville, right there in the United States, where people are super excited to be in a place where Bitcoin is going to be more regulated and allowed, and self-custody, and decentralization was the topic of conversation. The electricity in the room was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. There were people there that were speaking besides politicians, of course. Michael Saylor had an unbelievable presentation, which I'm sure some of the politicians were listening to that and being like, wow, Michael Saylor going to be part of my cabinet or something, because he knows what he's talking about. Vivek Ramaswamy gave a great speech as well. They had a bunch of different panels talking about Bitcoin and so on. There were a couple different Democrat representatives that, as you mentioned, Kamala Harris herself couldn't make it. Too bad. That would have been amazing, especially with that crowd, which might have been partial to Trump, since he was on the building a little bit longer than she would have been. But regardless, whoever it was, if it was a Democrat, if it was a Republican, if it was RFK's independent, they were all positive about crypto in the most positive possible way. Basically, Democrats came out with a representative saying that they're going to put a bunch of Bitcoin, I believe it was 1 million Bitcoin, in the Federal Reserve, right, holding in the American Federal Reserve.
Wasn't that Trump that said that?
No, let me reiterate. They said it. They said they're going to write a letter. The Democrats are going to write a letter, and in the letter, it's going to state that we're going to put the million Bitcoin in that reserve. Then Trump, who spoke as a keynote on the Saturday, he said the same thing. But then they brought out the actual legislation. They've written it up. The legislation is done. It's all written up. They read the actual new legislation to put this Bitcoin in the reserve. So they kind of take that extra step further, that it's already done. The second he's in office, they're putting that into place right away. So that was great to see. Regardless of what Trump was saying, which was obviously very positive on a Bitcoin side, I really believe that RFK, his knowledge on crypto and decentralization, unmatched from the politicians lining up. He was most definitely the most knowledgeable. He spoke about it, relating it to various countries and the issues they've had with their fiat currency, and what banks have done to take advantage of people, what governments have done to take advantage of people. For me, I was hearing a lot about, let's say, countries, in the Middle East. They were talking about in East Asia as well. But RFK, he hit home for me being a Canadian. He spoke specifically about Canada, which he said, along with the United States, is the example of what a democracy should be. And for some reason, when they peacefully protested, this was the trucker protest. And regardless if you're, with the truckers who didn't want to get any more vaccines, they had enough of it already. They were trying to pull back regulations on vaccines, yet pushing the truckers to get it. They didn't want the truckers who couldn't get a vaccine to lose their job. So all the truckers banded together. They banded together and said, we're not going to let this happen. They went to the capital, right to Ottawa, and they honked their horns. They honked their horns to let the politicians know that that's it. You can't tell us what to do anymore. So instead of listening to their people, the government started using facial recognition, chasing people down, shutting off their bank accounts, basically not allowing them to buy their groceries, pay their mortgages. They shut down PayPal accounts, chase these people down. This is when RFK realized he's going to run for president. This is when RFK realized that Bitcoin needs to be a part of every society, so you can't do this to people. The Canadian government would not be able to shut down the bank accounts of those truckers if everyone is using Bitcoin, 100%. It's just not how it works. So he spoke about that at great length. He spoke about what he's going to do to put crypto into play in the American sort of system. I wasn't sure based on his sort of polling. I love what he was saying. I agree with everything he was saying. The only thing I know is just being a realist based on the polling that he's not going to be president. Maybe something drastic could happen. So he's speaking into the air unless he actually joins one of those two parties. And when those two parties come into power, they can be part of that cabinet to actually push these regulations into play. But regardless, amazing that I've been involved in crypto since 2016. I know we're talking about 8 years later that the governments are now waking up and realizing what's going to happen. But I must say that listen, I'm pretty sure that anybody who's watching this video right now has been involved in Bitcoin, have been involved in crypto for longer than the U.S. government has realized how huge this is. So congratulations, you're a step ahead. And I really feel that the future is extremely bright for all us and people involved in the crypto sphere, for sure.
That's fabulous. That is so, so fabulous. I'm going to have to, I haven't listened to RFK or any of the speeches, but I'll dig out RFK's and Michael Saylor's speech. I'm sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah. All available on YouTube, all available on YouTube, which is awesome. One thing which is pretty neat as well, that obviously that Trump assassination attempt had happened. Then they had the Republican convention that happened as well. And they had one other rally, but then as a general conference, this was Trump's first appearance, just in general, right? And before he came out, first of all, you felt the Secret Service. They patted us down a bunch. They had those metal detectors going through. You're seeing people in the top corners all the time. I was perfectly fine with that. The more security, the better. Let's make sure nothing happens here, And then when Trump was supposed to come out, it was 2 p.m. And we're all like, okay, 2 p.m. And announcements started coming on. Where everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is a pretty big deal. The potential next president of the United States is going to come on stage here. And they had to delay it. They said, we have a security issue. It's going to be a little bit of a delay. Okay, let's wait. Half hour goes by, 45 minutes. People are getting antsy in that room. There's no food. We're all sitting there like, you don't want to give up your seat. When's Trump going to come on stage? Is it even going to happen? We start wondering what's happening. We're all checking Twitter, seeing what's happening. There are all these rumors about Elon coming on stage with Trump as well. That was already on X announced that's going to happen. They were following his plane. He was in Nashville, right? And an hour goes by. They announced that they had a security issue, which I looked at later. There were 2 people that didn't get checked out. They had to get down to those 2 people, get them checked out before Trump came out. Right. He made a fantastic joke when he came out saying, they told me there might be a security issue. It might take a little bit longer, sir. We're sorry about that. And he said, take as long as you need. He just took a bullet, of course. So I'm sure he was fine with extra security, and everything went off without a hitch. Honestly, whether you're a fan of Trump or not, you cannot deny the man is funny. He had some zinger jokes in there. Somehow he's taking things like decentralization and crypto and crazy world events and makes it kind of funny. So he did a great job. He did get a good standing ovation at the end, of course. And in general, great event. I'm leaving it as a crypto enthusiast even more excited about the future. So yes. I'm already looking into tickets for 2025. It's not an election year, so I don't know if it's going to have that same electricity to it. But regardless, it's going to be in Las Vegas at the Venetian. I've already got my own tickets. So if you're looking to go to Vegas, I hear it's a good place to go for fun as well. But Bitcoin 2025, Las Vegas at the Venetian. And
hopefully by then we will be in the full throes of the bull run. So perhaps it'll be more affordable as well for people.
Oh, I don't know about affordable from in the throes of it. The event itself. Sorry, I thought you meant
because Bitcoin would have gone up, right? One of the things that really excites me, Dan, is what it would do for the credibility of Bitcoin when the U.S. government starts buying Bitcoin, dollar cost averaging in on a daily basis. Because Trump or RFK talked about buying 500 Bitcoin a day. Just peanuts amount, dollar cost averaging in at 500 Bitcoin a day. But what that will do to the demand for Bitcoin and the credibility of Bitcoin, and then I think, because Max Kaiser said many, many years ago, there's going to come a point where governments will print money in order to buy Bitcoin. And why wouldn't you? Because it's the hardest asset going. There's not gold. The amount of gold in the world will double after 35 years. The Bitcoin ain't doubling at all. In fact, people are losing Bitcoin. It's disappearing.
Yeah, of course. You know what? I do agree with you from giving it that credibility, having the U.S. government involved. We have the thing about this event that everyone has their thoughts on everyone's pro Bitcoin, of course, right? But we get into these deep conversations about what if all fiat is gone and governments have no more control of printing money, they just don't have any more money. It's only that Bitcoin itself is being used all around the world. Suddenly we have trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars transactions all through Bitcoin all the time, all transparent, all trusted. You know who everyone's interacting with the entire time as well. We were getting excited about that, talking about that. But as you said themselves, when governments are going to be printing money to buy Bitcoin, would a government, I'm not pointing at any specific governments, but I'd say even the United States in this case, would they get rid of their own fiat, which allows them to have a lot of power in a lot of ways? I don't see any government saying, well, maybe some, but I don't see any government that's a major economic power saying we're going to get rid of our money altogether, have no control over that money whatsoever, and continue on as we were. I just don't see that happening without some major, major drastic changes and potentially militaries being, activated based on that as well.
They're not going to give up power control easily, and I think that's why there's the drive towards CBDCs, which Trump said in my presidency there will be no CBDCs, right? But I know the UK government is developing them, the European Union are developing them, and they are that's anti-Bitcoin, where it's centrally controlled. But you may have heard the maxim that good money drives out bad. Because like in Zimbabwe, when the Zimbabwean dollar collapsed, people got rid of their Zimbabwean dollars as quickly as possible and then started using the rand and the dollar and the pound and gold and Bitcoin. So people, I don't want to spend my Bitcoin. Let me get rid of this is the friction I have with my wife. I don't want to spend the Bitcoin. Can we spend the pounds first? Get rid of the pounds.
Exactly right.
So I think, and then also good technology drives out primitive old technology. So I think it's kind of inevitable. They don't get to have a say. And I think there's a movement towards decentralization. And the thing you say about transparency, yeah, that's really, really important. But I don't think it'll just be Bitcoin. I think it'll be Ethereum and Monero and Pirate Chain. And of course, the all important coins with dogs' faces on them. That's what crypto is all about.
Those were very much represented at the conference as well.
I'm sure they were. That was Satoshi's original vision.
Yes, there was a Dogecoin wrapped Cybertruck that had what are those dogs called? A Doge dog. It had one in the truck in dog mode, so it's like breathing inside. But they parked the dog out there all day long. The dog's inside this car. I don't know what it did. It have to go to the bathroom or whatever, but maybe they didn't think that through. But regardless, very, very cool. And I completely agree. That's what we're going to need, an interoperability layer between all these different techs as well. If you're using Bitcoin and Monero and all that, how are these people interacting with each other right now, right? Those conversions have to happen in a seamless way as well. It has to be usable, for retail users to actually use it. I would also say, from my biased perspective as a supply chain management project, that people are concentrating so hard on the financial systems. They're concentrating on money, which is understandable. That it's a fantastic use of crypto, of blockchain, to use Bitcoin instead of money, instead of fiat. I get it. But when it comes to companies leveraging Morpheus just to run their supply chains, and then that's pushing the mainstream use of our token on the back end with our masternode holders, that is how we're going to have crypto being used on the mainstream end. And as that back end layer, that infrastructural layer of all the transactions of all the business, not just concentrating on that money transfer itself, but actually that trusted data all around the world, pinging off notifications, interactions based on those smart contracts being fired off. That's when we're going to have mainstream use on the back end without even people realizing it. People don't even realize they're using crypto at that point. So, that's my view, and we're going to keep on building in that direction.
We will talk about that. You're absolutely right, because it isn't just Bitcoin as money. It's also the blockchain as a superior tech for that sort of transaction. The other thing I was listening to is reminded of, there are projects like Sentinel, which are decentralized VPNs, which means a government can't shut down a VPN. People can have access to information. So there is this movement towards decentralization. There's 3Speak, which is built on the Hive blockchain, which has no centralized points of capture. Mm-hmm. So people can share information. And of course, Morpheus Network. And we're going to do a video about Morpheus Network very soon. So people should subscribe and follow that and everything. It's a fabulous, fabulous project, as you're going to find out. Now, anything else you want to say about Bitcoin.com?
One last comment about Bitcoin.com, 2024. First of all, two last comments. First comment, Nashville is such a fun town. This was my first time ever going to Nashville. I had no idea. I thought it was just going to be another city,
No.
quiet city,
The
couple
home of
buildings,
country
whatever.
music.
I had no idea. It's like Las Vegas for country. It was unbelievable. It was so much fun. My wife, Noam was there, and his wife came along as well. So we had some amazing dinners. Hannah from our team, she's down in Tennessee. She visited as well. Travis actually came with us to the event. He saw Trump and RFK and all that as well. So we had a ball of a time in Nashville. So I would go back there, even if Donald Trump wasn't there. I would go there just for the experience of the city itself. But aside from that, last thing I wanted to say, just relating it back to the tech and what we're building, I had a ton of conversations with people about Bitcoin and crypto and different use cases. I will tell you, Rich, I'm saying this with all honesty. When I explain to people what we're doing with Morpheus, what we're doing with M&W and our token on the back end, validations and supply chain, we were the only project that people ever spoke to. They're actually leveraging crypto on the back end of a project in this fashion. People were unbelievably impressed with what we're doing. The fact we're doing this with companies like Coca-Cola, government bodies like government of Mongolia. We're going to talk in more detail in the second video about it. But going back to that conference, amazing tech, regulations happening, everyone's excited. But I will say that we definitely have a step up on actual enterprises getting paid revenue to leverage our solutions. It's a little bit different than the rest of the people down there at Bitcoin.com. But once again, I had an amazing time. I'm looking to grow our project even further and knocking their socks off even further in Las Vegas next year.
Dan, it's always fabulous talking to you. You get me so excited. I'm going to shoot off to the moon myself. Never mind Bitcoin to the moon. Dan, thank you so much. So everybody, please check out Morpheus Network. Subscribe so you catch that next video on Morpheus Network. It's absolutely fabulous project for reasons other than what Dan has said, as well as those reasons. If you have any comments or questions about the Bitcoin.com conference or where you think Bitcoin's going to go, let us know. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with freedom and decentralization. Crypto Rich and Crypto Dan signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.